Welcome to Unjammed, the software strategy series for print leaders, brought to you by GelatoConnect. If you're a print service provider who's felt frustrated by software that overpromises and underdelivers, then this series is for you. Whilst many printers have invested heavily in building their own systems, software development is moving faster than ever, and staying up to date and competitive requires more time than many PSPs can spare. So, in just 5 short lessons, you'll get the clarity, tools, and confidence you need to take control of your production setup without needing to become a tech expert. Hi again, welcome back to Unjammed, the software series for print leaders. I'm Ellie, I lead product marketing here at GelatoConnect. And if you caught our last episode, we talked about complexity creep, which is how even smart, well-run PSPs can end up tangled in disconnected tools and manual workarounds. Today, we're going to flip the lens. So, what if some of the tools themselves are actually part of the problem? It's not always about what you've added over time. Sometimes it's about what you chose in the first place or how that choice has aged since then. So joining me is Pradeep, our SVP of Product at GelatoConnect, who's helped dozens of PSPs untangle their tech and figure out what's worth keeping and what needs to go. Pradeep, before we dive in, can you tell me a bit about your experience and your current role?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Pradeep. I'm the Senior VP for Products at Gelato. My role is to ensure that the platform that we're building for the print industry allows PSPs to run a smarter, faster, and more connected print operation.
Great. So let's start here. Pradeep, why do you think so many print businesses hold on to software that might not be working for them anymore?
That's a tough one, Ellie, to start with. Basically, no one intends to buy a poor software or something that doesn't work with them. What typically happens is that you pick up tools along the way. Print industry, at least me coming from outside of the print industry and from the tech and software industry, what's surprising for me is that there are a number of tools out there which have been around for many years. So what worked 20 years ago may not be absolutely relevant today, but at the time it really solved a problem. So what we hear over and over from PSPs is that at the time they picked, and it was a well-meaning decision to pick a specific tool to support them with the challenges of the year or the day. And that has helped them to onboard volume and work and grow, and it has brought them to this point. But that perhaps may not be the best fit going ahead. The other thing that I notice is also that there is it is hard. It's hard for everyone. There is a sunk cost fallacy here, which is that, well, I've invested in this software. My entire team, including my production staff, are all trained on the software and they're familiar with it. What's gonna, why should I change that now? What is the cost of doing that? So these are some of the inhibitors which allows PSP to just pick up different software tools along the way, but never really get rid of any.
It makes complete sense. And we've also heard from PSPs where the entire onboarding process almost depends on one person who knows how to hack into the tool or hack the tool that they're working. But that's not a system, that's a dependency. And some of those systems have been in place for a really long time. What would you say are some of the telltale signs from a product perspective that a piece of software might be holding a print business back?
If you, as the CEO of a print business, feel like you need to change something, and there is perhaps one person who's the expert of the tool holding you back, that may already be a sign. But zooming out, a key indicator that we speak about is whether it is preparing you for the future or holding you back. So, what are the signs there? One, you're not able to say yes to new opportunities and growth. When there are customers knocking at your door and you're not able to confidently say yes, that is a telltale sign. Let's take a real example here. The world is moving towards on-demand printing, and orders are going to come in from technology-enabled sources such as APIs and web-to-print storefronts. And if you're not able to say yes, that's a sign. But the other sign is also that you have said yes and you've taken on board that volume, but you've had to staff that with human beings, a team of people to try and manage that manually. So I speak a lot about growth in these because this is what I'm hearing from a number of GelatoConnect customers and PSPs, because that is something they're all trying to future-proof their business, and I really want to start there as the sign. The other one that I would say is a sign is when you have to start building around your existing tool. So you look at your tool and you say, oh, okay, it does this. Oh, wait a minute, it doesn't export. I cannot access this data via APIs. I cannot put it in a dashboard so I get understanding of my own P&L. And then you start building around it using uh, custom tools, Excel spreadsheets, whatever it may be. And while it starts off small, what I also notice is that an entire process gets built around it, entire teams get built around it, and sometimes also PSPs kind of get, or at least specific team members get a almost a fake feeling that this is a real engineering. They get into engineering mode as if that is what is going to drive value for them, but that is not what it is. So that's another sign when you start building a team around it to plug all the gaps that your existing software tools are creating. So I would say these two are the biggest signs.
But I imagine that a lot of teams just get used to that pain. So how do you help them see that the cost of continuing to work in that way might actually be higher than the cost of changing it?
That is indeed the right question to ask. So what we do is to go through a process of discovery where we actually work with the PSP to understand where the bottlenecks are, where the challenges are, and actually measure it. As an example, recently I was visiting one of our new customers, and we mapped the process from the time an order comes in to the point where it gets produced and shipped out, and we could see all the different manual touch points and the inefficiencies and the bottlenecks that are within the system. So there's no substitute for actually measuring and seeing the inefficiency before you go out and address it. And that is just an example of an order flow, but then there are so many different processes. So if you map out your high frequency processes and then benchmark that against other PSPs, and this is something that I feel that the print industry needs more. The industries that I come from, there are clear benchmarks for what good looks like. However, within print, there is a lot of pride and local processes that are driving what I would call custom manufacturing. And one of the things we in Gelato, because I in my role speak to hundreds of PSPs, so that is that perspective that I bring when I see a great PSP for a specific workflow or a process. And then when we benchmark that against a different PSP, we can clearly see those opportunities. So by measuring and benchmarking, and some of the best practices we've also documented in our help center, we are able to then really tangibly define what the ROI could be if the tool that is holding you back or a process that is holding you back is changed. And that when the team realizes that, that's the catalyst for real change.
Great, thank you. And can you share a recent real life example from one of the PSPs you work with who had kind of fallen into one of these pain point categories that we discussed and how they solved it?
No, absolutely. I'm going to call out an example from our customer, GSB Digital in New York. In this case, actually, they recognized this challenge wherein they had a conventional MIS system, typically an MIS system in print. I want to say that it comes from an offset world. That is when this term of MIS softwares really began, and a number of them have perhaps stayed perfect for that use case, but not for the on-demand digital printing where it's a high volume of small digital orders. So in their case, while that tool was still performing for these larger orders, when you start getting web to print orders, in this case, they were using a Presero web to print store to get smaller digital orders from their customers, and they had a number of these stores. But once the order comes in, and this is not just about GSB, any PSP right now, if they're working with web to print and they're connecting to their MIS, I think that's a real area of opportunity that I would say, because it's not like efficiency improves 20%. It's more like efficiency improves 10 times, 20 times, because the current process, again, when you map that, is that an order comes in, it just creates an email, and someone needs to manually write that job ticket as though it's a really large order. Imagine if the order is only $100, right? By the time a real human being writes that into an MI system, by the time that gets done through prepress with manual prepress, and the production manager picks up the docket or job ticket to manually produce it, these manual touch points have already eroded all of your margins. So that is the challenge that they sit with. And thanks to tools such as GelatoConnect, and we deployed GelatoConnect there, they were able to just connect that web to print store straight into an automated workflow for processing that order end to end. And now that is a growth channel. Now they're able to say yes to more work, which comes in this way, because they know they will be able to handle that efficiently and not having to man that with people who would need to manually process those orders. So it's a good example of, again, measuring the before state, then understanding what the future could look like. And once you deploy or make that change in the tool, it also opens up new growth opportunities, because now you can say yes, because you know what your cost base is, which is much lower than what it was before to support this type of order.
Thanks so much, Pradeep. It's a really good example. I spoke to Stefan Steiner, the president at GSB, a couple of weeks ago, and we have some more information on our blog that some of our listeners can read to kind of read the full story. But before GelatoConnect, they had been manually writing up these orders for 34 years, and now they have full automation. So it's been really revolutionary for their order intake. Speaking now to our listeners, if you're a PSP and you're wondering whether any of your tools are actually more trouble than they're worth, we've put together what we're calling a print software red flag checklist. And it's a list of the most common traps that we see, plus some of the right questions to ask before you decide to commit to anything new. You can download it at gelato.com/connect/strategy, or just tap the link in the episode notes. So Pradeep, what are some practical tips that you can share for PSPs when it comes to figuring out which of their tools they should potentially replace?
Yeah, firstly, even though change faces resistance, not all change is good. So there's a need to be mindful here. So we're not advocating for just throw everything out, go for a big bang approach. That, typically doesn't work so much, because I've come to learn how deep and intricate print is. And there are so many moving parts. There's years of history, number of nuances in customer use cases for which the tools and systems have been designed in a certain way. So there are some factors to consider, but on a general framework, I would propose something like, what do you keep, what do you connect, and what do you throw away or replace? What is it that you keep? I think this is quite obvious, but I think the bar needs to really go up. What does that mean? Within Gelato, in our technology team, for us, the bar for keeping a software tool is now much higher in the age of AI. So just because the tool is good, we're not going to keep that tool anymore. That tool needs to really take us to the future, and we can see that future with that particular vendor. That's when we keep that. So I would encourage you all, yes, don't replace a tool that is good, but at the same time, think about the vendor and whether they're keeping up with the times as a key criteria. Think 3 years ahead. So those are the good tools. If they're really keeping it updated, they're fast to respond, and they're moving to the age of AI, that's one that I would absolutely recommend keeping. The next one is the bucket called Connect. So if you have a good tool that is doing a good job for you and you can see clear ROI, but it's isolated, so it's a point solution, but it's doing that job, ideally you would want to connect it so you are able to create an horizontal end-to-end solution out of it, but tread with caution. And the reason I say that is because we did a study with a consulting company called McKinsey. They found that there are an average of 4.3 workflows in each PSP, right? So while it sounds good, oh, this really worked for this particular customer. All right, let me connect with that. Then you will end up with a chain of connected things which are all bespoke, and probably Tim in your facility is the only person who knows how to connect these things, and you kind of become that there becomes uh, more points of failure, and you would want to avoid that. So connect. When I say connect, it means the tool is really embracing open APIs, and that it's a flexible tool. Hopefully, if they really want to work with other players, top technology players, they would have some sort of native integrations. As an example, we have native integrations with B2C platforms like Shopify, or I spoke about Pressero earlier. So there are and we connect with 80 plus carriers, again, natively. So the future is vendors who are creating native integrations to the type of tools that you need to put together. And if you are given the homework to put those tools together, tread with caution. The last one I would say is what to throw out. I think we can discuss that at length. There's a number of reasons why you would want to do it. First thing, something that's not delivering ROI. I mean, whether it's good or not, that's a different question. But is that in the direction of travel for your business and where you want to take it? Let's say offset is not a big bet for your future, and there is this tool that takes a certain portion of your offset work and does it slightly better than something else. Those are the kind of things that you would want to start with, because you want to bet on the future. You want to skate where the puck is going. So what are the things of the past that you can leave behind? And the second one is the tools that are really holding you back. What are those tools? I spoke about tools where uh, I have seen so many systems now, and our customers have educated me where it is basically a combination of forms and like tables, and it is really human beings filling out each and every step along the way. Of course, it helped to do the job. Maybe it helped them move from paper to digital or to a computer. But I think the times have changed, and those are things that are potentially holding you back. So take a mindful approach to scan and find a tool that can help you, as I said, with a 3-5 year perspective, taking you to the future.
Thanks, Pradeep. I think that's really helpful advice. And also, something that we'll be talking about in a future episode is the people side of it. So, software is rarely the whole story. There are other blockers, including resistance to change, not having an internal champion or owner of a tool, and also lack of documentation to help people actually use the tool. So, we'll cover that more deeply in episode 5. But
Yeah, no, Ellie, I'm looking forward to that as well. And one of the things that we're learning is that one way to assess the tool is also the availability of clear documentation. When I say documentation, it's not just documentation like technical documentation like API docs, but I'm speaking about, can that tool be used to train your team? Like I spoke about MI systems before, and and typically when you speak to a PSP about changing their MIS, it, rightly or wrongly, so that everyone is quite nervous because it's a bit like the engine of the whole factory. But at the same time, those are the discussions that we need to take, because again, that is your engine that can also propel you to the future. And if that system or MIS doesn't have clear documentation, the new one that you're going to procure, you really need to think through that. Today, most of the technology tools out there, the leading software B2B software companies, they offer beautiful training on demand for your team to be able to get adopting the tool and learn and really drive value from those tools. So that's one of the things to check when you evaluate a vendor, whether they have good documentation and training material.
that's such good advice. So, thank you for everything today, Pradeep. We're about to wrap up. So, how would you summarize what we've discussed today and the key things that PSPs need to be thinking about when it comes to choosing their software tools?
No, thanks a lot, Ellie. I'm going to summarize it in two sentences or two bullets. First, is your current tools holding you back or future proofing your business? Think 3 to 5 years ahead and see what's holding you back and what can really future proof your business. So that's one. And then make an assessment of where those changes are needed. And the second one is, be mindful about the sunk cost fallacy. Just because there has been an investment that has gone into something, and that resistance to change that it creates in all of us, that could hold you back from exploring new technologies or new growth opportunities, which may just be around the corner. So I would just leave with those two bullets.
Thanks so much, Pradeep. So, to our listeners, don't forget to download the red flag checklist and to use it to start having some really honest conversations with your team, or just to kickstart your thinking about this. If you're not sure if your tools are still a fit for you, you don't need to do a deep audit. Sometimes a really quick conversation helps clarify where things could potentially be smoother. So you can book a chat with us at gelato.com/connect/strategy, and we'll share what we're seeing from other PSPs like yourselves. In our next episode, we're taking on the trend of the year, which is AI in print. Kian, one of our product managers, is going to be joining us to separate hype from real operational wins and share how PSPs are already using AI today to automate smarter and save some serious money. So thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.